Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We are Baltimore Positive. We're taking the Maryland Crab Cake Tour on the road on Friday. We're going to be in Essex and at Pizza John's having some pizza, crab cakes, maybe cheesesteak, and some French fries and proper gravy. It's all brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. I will have the Magic 8 Balls to give away. We're off to Canada for opening day next week, and then we're going to be back at Fadley's at Lexington Market on the 2nd before the Red Sox-Orioles game with our Crab Cake Tour. This guy's probably had some crab cakes because, I mean, I know he worked in Baltimore. There is video evidence of this. He's coming back to Baltimore. You know him probably from the Chappelle Show, certainly from The Wire. He's been an actor a long, long time in many ways, as well as a comedian. He's going to come in during these dark times to try to make us laugh this weekend at the Baltimore Comedy Factory. He'll be in all weekend long. It is a pleasure to welcome him back to Baltimore, where The Wire sort of made him semi-famous many years ago. Donnell Rawlings joins us here, and all the comedy. My son's such a Chappelle fan, and so many people mention The Wire to me all the time. It is a pleasure to know you and welcome you on. What's funny these days, Donnell Rawlings?
I will say this: press conferences in the White House are the funniest thing ever right now.
If they
Whatever you,
weren't real, they'd be funny, right?
oh man, I did a joke the other day. I said I don't even write jokes anymore. I just watch press conferences. Whatever side you with, the left or the right, I will just tell you right now, it's very entertaining. Just recapping some of the things that happened the day before yesterday, the day before that, and the day before that. But more importantly, I think I'm on the wrong tour. I didn't know you had a crab cake tour going on. I would have showed up for the crab cake tour instead of the Black and Mild tour.
Well, Friday, we're over at Essex and Pizza John's. They make a delicious crab cake. It'll be the best pizza you've ever had, too. So you're down the road in D.C. You come up here anytime. I always tell people, you don't get getting the D.C. crab cakes. Don't go to PG County or Montgomery County. No offense for crab. You got to come up here. You got to get where the
First
people
off,
are.
we're not going to have an East Coast, West Coast beef like who's got the best crab cakes. All right. I think in this world, we have to live with everybody and whatever their preference is on crab cakes. You're trying to start a war. We just did Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Now you're trying to get the DC, Baltimore crab cake beef, and I'm not going to support that.
No, it's a Maryland out. You never, ever, ever order a crab cake outside the state of Maryland. Don't do that.
All right, I'll respect that, but I'm excited. I'm excited to come to Baltimore again. I'm working at the Comedy Factory Outlet, which is one of the premier comedy clubs in the country for a live stand-up comedy. If I'm not mistaken, they've been the brand has been there for over 25 years, but they moved to a different facility, maybe 10 years ago, which is bigger, is better. And me coming from the DMV area, I get people from Baltimore, I get people from Virginia, I get people from DC to come to the Comedy Factory Outlet, and we're gonna have a good time. One of the questions people ask, and I just recently, last year, I just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of my Netflix special called A New Day. And the question a lot of people have after you do a special, well, is he gonna do the same material? But rest assured that the minute that special dropped, I had already had a new hour. So if you come see me, it's going to be fresh. It's going to be unfiltered. It's going to be topical. It's going to be observational. But more importantly, it's going to be funny.
My wife and I have a thing. I've been on the air 34 years. I've had every comedian I've ever had on. Louis Anderson really spent time with me and said,
one of my favorites.
He said, you can do this. You can do this. You can be funny. You write your jokes. You send them to me. I'll help you out. And then I ran into him in Vegas like 3 years later. He's like, you haven't sent me any jokes. And then he passed away. And now I'm 56. I do this every day of my life for 34 years. And I know you did radio down in the DMV. I don't know if I'm funny or not, but I know if I wrote stuff, I could deliver it, and I'm not afraid of the stage and all of that.
Have you done it?
I have never done it. Never.
Then you're afraid of it. And I'm going to follow up on Louis because I have that a lot of times. And for him to say that, I'm pretty sure he's seen a lot of people. And it's not just, and I've said this for some radio personalities, but people not even in our field. Some people I just feel like could be naturals at it. But the thing that holds them back is like, well, I got to write all these jokes and everything. You're never going to write the perfect joke. And especially if you've never been on stage, it doesn't matter what joke you write. The minute you go on stage, you're going to forget it. Something's going to trigger you to go try to do it. Now, I will say, if you're interested, I'll pick up where Louis said, and you can come on stage with me at the Comedy Factory Outlet and do your 3 or your 5 minutes. So, in the word, this is what we say in the street: don't talk about it, be about it. Now, I'm not saying it's something that you want to do for the rest of your life, or it's something that you want to say, I'm going to continue with this and give myself another career opportunity. But I will say this: if you've ever once thought about doing it, you got to try it.
I write stuff all the time. Mickey
All right,
Coachella,
look, look, look,
you
look,
know,
look, 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 look. Here we go. Excuses are like blank holes. Everyone has one. All right. Now we're going to talk about you doing it, or we're going to talk about something else, because we can have this conversation about I write, I write, I write, I write. I am speaking on behalf of Louis Anderson. Don't talk about it, be about it. Next question.
wow, he's got me going. Donnell Rawlings here, comedian as well as actor. Let's talk a little bit about The Wire because people bring it up. I've known David for 35. I worked with David at the Sun back in
Yeah.
the 80s when I was a kid, and I had him on whenever the new HBO thing came out. We got a monster a couple years ago, and the first thing I said to David was this: I never watched The Wire. And the reason I never watched The Wire is if you see this picture, this was my home at the Inner Harbor for 19 years on the 23rd floor. And I looked out the window when I lived at the harbor from '03 until 21, until about
Yeah.
3 years ago. And during that period of time, I just never felt like it might frighten me a little bit because it was so realistic. It's considered the greatest series ever, not by David or you or people involved in it. Anywhere I go as a Baltimorean, people
Oh, yeah.
mention The Wire in a bad way, in a crime way, in the city, and all of that. But the greatness of the art and the believability of the art and the characters and all of that, I always felt like it would sort of weird me out a little bit about the city. And but all of these years later, you were a part of something that
I
is
will.
considered the greatest of all time, right?
It's so interesting though, because people say, "What is your legacy going to be?" You never know because you won't be here to experience that. But I will say, U.S. Entertainment Weekly, one of the leading magazines, they did an article, the top 100 television shows in the history of television, and I was a part of two shows that were considered to be in the top 100. One being The Wire, and two being The Chappelle Show. David Simon, first off, is amazing, amazing writer, amazing human being, which I think is more important than anything. And my relationship to Wire, it came from my relationship with HBO's The Corner. If you know The Wire and you're a historian of The Wire, you know The Wire was basically a spinoff of HBO's The Corner. That story was so dark with the family, and what they talked about is you couldn't do a continuation of The Corner because most of the people were either dead or just wasn't that. So they did the spinoff was The Wire. Another fact a lot of people don't know is that the character, one of the breakout characters on that show was Omar Mike K. Williams, right? That role came down to myself and Mike. Robert Colesbury, RIP, one of the executive producers from the show. When I got the role as Day Day Price, he said, we were really considering you to play Omar, but we really thought you could bring something special to this Damian Price Day Day character. And I was supposed to be a part of that story arc. But what happened was the Baltimore Tourism Board complained that all the productions in Baltimore, it's always, and something to go with what you're saying, is always pictured to be dark, is always pictured to be decrepit. You know what I mean? It's always pictured to be in a bad situation. So David Simon and the writers, they had to go from the towers, which was very popular, Stringer Bell and all those guys. They had to rewrite the storyline and go to the docks just to appease the Baltimore Tourism Board. When that happened, my character, Damian Price, who was connected with Senator Clay Davis, first off, that story had so much legs. I get caught with $30,000, right? They take me into custody and they got to release me, and I have to leave with the money. And that story and what happened to that money never was answered because they had to shift it. But David, being the great guy that he is, he said, Donnell, I wanted to pay like some homage to you and what you did to our brand in the show. So that's why I just decided to bring you back on the last season of The Wire. But I even when I got that role, it was confusing because I was a young actor. I mostly had a stand-up background, and I thought I bombed in that audition. And as soon as I got on set, I saw David. And the first question I asked him, I said, "Why me?" I was like, I really thought I bombed in that audition. I didn't know what I was doing. He said, "We like the fact that you threw your lines away." Throw your lines away means you go off book. I didn't throw my lines away. I forgot my lines. So I had to improv, and I played Brett. He was a heroin addict, which most people in the corner was. And what I found was I'm sure every actor went in there that knew the background of him being a heroin addict. They played to the addiction. They played to him getting high. But what they wanted to see in the audition was, who is this guy when he wasn't high? So me not being prepared, I took that part away, and my personality came out, and the comedic undertone hit, and that's what they chose. And that built a relationship with me with HBO's The Corner. I want to shout out Charles Dutton, who destroyed that. I want to shout out everybody that was on the production. It won like 3 Emmys back in 1997. Gave me opportunity to be on The Corner, to The Wire, and I guess if you want to say, the rest is history.
Donnell Rawlings is going to be doing his brand of comedy all weekend long right here in Baltimore. And you know about Chappelle, you know about the background, the comedy. But I had Rain Pryor on this week. She's doing a Broadway night on Saturday this week over at the BHC, and daughter of Richard Pryor. And so I
Yeah.
had a long conversation. And I looked you up. You and I are 6 weeks apart in age. I was born October 68. You were born in 68 as
I
well.
mean, you didn't have to do that. I would have let the audience decide that, but go ahead. I
But
knew when you told me, I knew when you said it, you was going to bring it up. You could have left that alone. You could have let the people decide. You wanted to make that connection.
Well, I wanted to make that connection because we both grew up in the same exact time, sort of same exact place in regard to what comedy was with Carlin, with Red Fox, with Brown Paper Bags, with Steve Martin, even in the early 70s and Saturday Night Live. What was funny to you as a young person that brought that part to the stage and then brought it to Chappelle and it's going to bring it to Baltimore this weekend? Because in talking to Rain Pryor this week, I said to my wife the night before I had her on, I said, I loved Richard Pryor. Like, and I was too young to know it. I was 10, 11, 12 years old watching that Long Beach act, all the bad words and all that stuff, silver streaks. But I'm thinking about that and maybe Red Fox and Sanford and Son. But I wasn't up late enough with Carson as a kid to find
Oh,
that comedy. I found Dundalk, Bawdy, Dirty, Brown Paper Bag, Working Blue. That's still funny to me. Andrew Dice Clay's still funny to me. If it's not Blue, it's harder for. I'm a Dundalk guy, and I
right.
I work clean 34 years. I can't use
Right.
that language here,
I
but
think I think I think comedy is subjective to what you like. I know it's been tougher for some comics, especially the ones that are outspoken and want to say what they want to say. I guess the last 20 years it's been a super, super woke consciousness with comedy, cancel culture. People think you can't say this, you can't say that. And to that, I have a tagline that I use on all my platforms, my podcast. Someone said, Donnell, can a joke be too soon? I said, a joke could be too soon, but it never could be too soon for a funny observation. And the thing is, the world we're living in right now with the internet and everything, it's always interesting when I hear people go to a show, they get shocked and they leave. You can Google a performer you're going to go see. And for the most part, you can kind of know what style of comedy. It's not like back in the day, like coming to the show, you didn't know what you didn't know until you went there. So people have the option to do a research on these comics. But I think comedy should be from your perspective, how you look at life. My good friend Dave Chappelle, and I'm not name dropping, it's not name dropping if you know the people, but he said, Donnell, as comedians, it's our job to make fun of things that are troubling the world. We're therapeutic. We get therapy, the audience get therapy. Whenever I go on stage, I feel like I'm dealing with something in my past, and the audience is helping me either accept it or understand it. And I think when people come to my show, one of the best compliments I had over the years is that when someone comes up to me and they're like, I wasn't feeling good. I didn't want to come out. I just lost a close relative, a close friend. I just got fired from my job. But I'm glad I came out because I got to relieve myself and I got to move away from that. And even if it's only for 45 minutes to an hour, comedy should be an escape and could be something to help preserve your mental state.
why that's you're helping me here. You're trying to inspire me to get on stage and do this. So when you write things, how do you know whether it's funny or not? The material you're doing this weekend,
Well,
and go ahead.
me personally, I've been doing it long enough. Like really good comics, you think of your brain is programmed to think funny all the time. That doesn't mean it makes it to pen and paper. It doesn't mean it makes it to the stage. But when you have a certain amount of experience, you can feel when something is going to be right. Like I hear people like, yo, you got to work it out and everything. If I think something is going to be funny, 9 times out of 10, when I go on stage, I believe in it enough I got enough stage presence. I got enough experience to make it work. But in some cases, sometimes things may not work. But me personally, if I say, now that's funny, it met the criteria for me to go up there and try it. I don't necessarily write jokes down. I'll write a premise down, something that sparks my interest or whatever. And my workout is constantly getting the reps, doing it again, doing it this way. And I will say, I've been doing it over 30 years, and I've had the same energy and the same will to destroy audience. We're talking about a guy I've had hundreds of thousands of shows. Every time I go on stage, I'm trying to make this show better than the last show that was a good show.
Well, you mentioned that your Netflix special's out, and everybody can go check that out. And that's one script that you have different things going on here. How much are you always updating things? Are there things this weekend you're going to use 5 new things, 10 new things in a
It's hard for me.
how much has material happened for you?
For me, I would say probably I could do 45 minutes to an hour on stuff I've already done, but I like to try to keep myself open to improv, something happening. I've been in situations where literally like minutes before I go on stage, I'm like, that's funny. And I'm going to drop it then. So it's very unpredictable. I like, again, I like to be able to say, okay, this is the core of my set, but it could go in any direction. I've had shows where I would come up with see something in the audience that sparked something, and next thing you know, that's 15 minutes worth of new material for the next show. So my stuff is like it's an open book. You never know what's going to happen. And I think that's what people enjoy about my shows the most. And people that come to the Comedy Factory outlet, they've been following me for years. They know one thing when they come to my show, that you're not going to get the same material. You're going to get this guy that really cares about being new, relevant, and funny.
Donnell Rawlings will be in town all weekend. Make sure you get down to Baltimore Comedy Factory outlet. Check him out. He is from the area. I mean, you've been doing this for DC area and just like here and The Wire. I think people really associate you with that. How often do people bring The Wire up? Is that an everyday thing with you and Chappelle every
I
single
mean,
day?
it's kind of, I will say it's interesting because I've done a lot since that show, BMF. I played a character on Disney Pixar's movie Soul that won a Oscar. I've been a part of 20s. I've been on Guy Code. I've done a lot of things, but not for some reason. Those two shows are like two of the biggest shows in television history. But it's interesting. People come up to me and be like, I really liked you on Chappelle show, but I'm gonna tell you my all-time favorite is The Wire. But to be associated, and we're talking, The Wire probably was 20 years ago, 20, maybe 20, 21 years ago. The Chappelle show is like 20 years ago. But just to be able to be a part of that is awesome. And I get a lot of, sometimes you have people that are negative. They're like, yeah, what has he done since Chappelle show? I've done a lot. Well, what is he do? What is he going to do next? I'm sorry, and I'm not going to apologize for being on one of these shows that people consider one of the greatest shows in television history. So people can say that I've already made history. I'm not trying to rewrite history. I'm not trying to outdo Chappelle show. I'm just trying to maintain a level of consistency, with my stand-up, with my acting stuff, and just keep it moving. Nothing is going to ever, there at some point, there will be something that people are like, this reminds me of so and so. But that was a part of time. I embrace it. People call me Day Day on the streets, Damian Price. They call me Ashy Larry. They call me beautiful, but they call me. So at the end of the day, I'm winning.
You can call Donnell Rawlings anytime. 5 shows over the weekend, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. The Baltimore Comedy Factory, I haven't mentioned where it is. It's on my side of town. It's almost in Dundalk. We used to call it the Heights over there. O'Donnell Heights, right off I-95. Donnell, I'll tell you what, man, you are in the heart of Crablandia, being in East
Yeah.
Baltimore. So you ain't going to have any problem. Just come through the tunnel, and we'll take you over to, you're 2 miles from Costas. You're right around the corner from all the good spots. So have a great weekend here. Bring that Baltimore comedy up here. And I've been watching a lot of these press conferences, and I would agree with you. Is Elon Musk funny to you? Is that part of
No,
your
you know
your
what's
acting?
so funny? It's interesting because I was with Chappelle. We did a show in San Francisco some years ago. And at that time, Dave Chappelle, I'm not going to say friends, but he would be in conversation with him and he'd come to shows. And I think Elon had an idea of wanting to do stand-up, but I don't think in front of a 20,000 seat arena is a good place. And this was right after he laid off all those people in San Francisco. When I tell you it was a horrible situation, he went on stage and they booed the hell out of him. Boo, boo. And there's an iconic catchphrase that I use on Chappelle's show, which would have been perfect for Elon. I was like, yo, you gotta say it. He said, say what? And I said, you gotta say, I'm rich. And then I'm not going to say the end of it, right? And then he butchered it. So he said, I'm rich, botch. And it was like, boo, boo, boo. And I was like, no, you got to say it like this. I'm rich, bitch. He didn't get it. And that was the end of his comedy career.
Well, he's a billionaire and he's controlling everything at the head of the president. I'd like to say it's funny from the outside, but it's not kind of funny, right? I mean, there's parts of it that humor is involved in everything I'm doing on social media because this is the only thing we have at this point is humor in
And
regard to the situation.
again, repeating what I said earlier, my good friend Dave said, it's our job to make fun of the things that are troubling the world. And that's what I'm bringing to the Baltimore Comedy Factory outlet this weekend. Talking about the things that are troubling the world in a very funny way.
I appreciate the time well spent with you and crab cake anytime. And if I write anything funny, I'm going to run it back.
Whatever. Don't talk about it. Be about it.
That's it. All right, drop the mic.
Don't let me be the next one. And then Louis told me he died, and Donnell died.
Oh, now you're killing me. Now I got to do it before you die. We're the same age. All right.
Do it.
On behalf of to honor the late great Louis Anderson, I'm going to get into the comedy business with Donnell Rawlings. Thank you very much. Knock him dead over the weekend. I'm going to break a leg or whatever I got to say about that. I am Nestor. We are WNST AM 1570. It's house in Baltimore, stacking up comedians and wire actors and all sorts of good stuff. We'll be at opening day next week. We're Baltimore positive.